Matilda star Sam Kerr has just responded after she was found not guilty of racially harassing a London police officer.
Let's go live to Europe correspondent Edward Godfrey at Stamford Bridge in Chelsea. Edward, it ends a 2-year ordeal for the striker. What did she have to say?
It does, Sarah and Carl, and it comes after a 6-day trial and 4 hours and 14 minutes of deliberations. But Sam Kerr, as you said, found not guilty of racially harassing a police officer. Just in the last few minutes, we've received a statement from Sam Kerr, and I'll read that to you now. It says, "Following today's not guilty verdict, I can finally put this challenging period behind me. While I apologise for expressing myself poorly on what was a traumatic evening, I have always maintained that I did not intend to insult or harm anyone, and I'm thankful to the jury unanimously agreed. I would like to thank my partner Christy, my family, friends and all the fans for their love and support, especially those who attended court each day. I'm fully focused on getting back onto the pitch and look forward to an exciting year ahead for me and my family." Now, Sam Kerr left Kingston Crown Court shortly after the 12-person jury returned its verdict this afternoon. The 31-year-old stood without showing any emotion as the not guilty verdict was read out, her family nearby and her fiancé, Christy Mewis, crying. Following the verdict being handed down, Judge Peter Lotter KC told the court, "I take the view her own behaviour contributed significantly to the bringing of this allegation. I don't go behind the jury's verdict, but that has a significant bearing on the question of costs." Now, throughout the trial, Ms Kerr denied using whiteness as an insult when she called PC Stephen Lovell stupid and white. Following a night out in January 2023, she told the court she and Ms Mewis feared for their lives during a confrontation with a taxi driver just prior, the driver not letting them out when Ms Kerr became sick, Ms Mewis smashing a window. Ms Kerr's comments came during an argument with police. She told the court she believed Lovell was using his privilege and power over her and wasn't understanding of their fears, and that she believed police were treating her differently because of what they perceived to be the colour of her skin. So this all brings to an end to a 2-year ordeal, a 6-day trial. Sam Kerr in her statement there saying she's excited to refocus now on the game and getting back on the pitch. She's got a big year ahead. She's getting married. Her and her partner are expecting a baby boy. But yeah, the end of a 2-year ordeal and found not guilty today, Carl and Sarah.
Yeah, what a saga, Edward. Thank you.
Now to some more breaking news. Donald Trump has doubled down on his claim to take over Gaza as he holds a crucial meeting at the White House with the King of Jordan. Live to US correspondent Lauren Tomasi. Lauren, Trump has just spoken from the Oval Office.
In quite a lengthy statement, Jane, he was sitting alongside King Abdullah of Jordan, but it was Donald Trump doing all of the talking, really backing in that quite strange plan that he says he has to take over the Gaza Strip and turn it into somewhat of a Riviera of the Middle East. Donald Trump says he won't be buying it. The US will be controlling the war-torn strip of land and that the people of Gaza will be living elsewhere safely. He was asked under what authority can the United States take control of the Gaza Strip. He says under US authority. This is something that we have heard the US president repeatedly discuss over the last couple of weeks, this idea that the US will take over the Gaza Strip. And today, as he sat inside the Oval Office there, he really touted his real estate record from the past, saying he could make the Gaza Strip into something of a diamond. This is the first meeting with an Arab leader that the US president has had since coming back into office. It is an important meeting, but the King of Jordan really hasn't had a chance to say much of anything. Here's what Donald Trump had to say.
We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it.
Donald Trump did also lay out his plans as to where the people of Gaza will be living. He said there will be parcels of land within Egypt and Jordan, and that is where those displaced Palestinian people will be moving to. The president threatening to withhold aid from those two countries if they don't agree to his terms. Look, in the few words he did get in, King Abdullah of Jordan conceded that it's going to be really hard to make this work for everybody. And as all of this was unfolding unfolding in the Oval Office, there's also that very precarious ceasefire arrangement, which is now hanging in the balance after Hamas threatened to not release the next round of hostages this coming weekend. Donald Trump says all bets will be off if they aren't returned by midday on Saturday. And Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, just moments ago also issuing a statement to say that the IDF will move back into Gaza if those hostages aren't released. A lot to unpack there, Jane.
OK, Lauren, thank you. A warning now, some viewers may find the vision in this next story confronting. A woman has been filmed being kicked and hit by a Victorian police officer during a violent arrest in Melbourne. Live to Today Melbourne reporter Christina Hearn, who's at Windsor for us. Chris, this all happened after a fuel station worker was attacked there.
Yeah, that's right, Jane. So this all unfolded at about 12:30 this morning. Police were called to the 7-Eleven on Busy Punt Road with reports that a woman had allegedly lit a fire inside. She also allegedly assaulted the service station attendant, who was not physically injured. Now, police say she resisted arrest, and as you can see from this mobile phone footage, a police officer first kicked her and then he striked her before eventually tasering her and taking her into custody. You can see her sitting there in handcuffs as the firefighters arrived just to make sure that fire inside was extinguished. That 46-year-old woman remains in custody this morning. Jane, no charges have been laid.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
So confronting vision there, Jane, that 46-year-old woman in custody this morning.
OK, thank you very much, Christine. Two service station workers held captive by armed thieves south of Brisbane in separate incidents has shocked the state. Let's go live now to Today Queensland reporter Andrea Crothers. Andrea, these thugs remain on the run.
Yes, Jane, and police are investigating whether those two robberies are linked. We start in Eagleby, Logan, a service station worker stocking milk on a shelf when suddenly the group storms in. They're masked, they're armed, they're dangerous, ignoring that worker's pleas to be freed, held captive for 5 minutes. They demand the code to the safe, the key to the cigarette cabinet. The worker gives neither. They eventually run off before coming back in, but by that stage their victim has raised the alarm, so they take off in the employee's car instead. This is terrifyingly similar to another service station robbery, this time at Thornlands in the Redlands. This time, though, they take off with a lot of cash and they're armed with a crowbar. And if that wasn't enough in terms of robberies in southeast Queensland, another newsagent this time is smashed into, only for a fire truck passing by those inside to notice, for the thugs to then turn on it, smashing its window. Jane.
OK, Andrea, thank you. Mixed messages from Washington this morning as a key Trump trade advisor declares Australia is killing America's aluminium market. Live now to Today Federal Politics reporter Liz Daniels in Canberra. Liz, does that complicate the mission for an Australian exemption?
Well, Jane, it definitely proves that Donald Trump is unpredictable and that people around him share his economic views on tariffs, which makes him difficult to do deals with. While the President echoed the Prime Minister's words yesterday that an exemption for Australia would be considered, the actual orders that he signed in the Oval Office effectively accuse us of abusing previous carve-outs secured during the last Trump administration. Now, Peter Navarro, the President's new senior counsellor for Trade, has been on CNN overnight saying Australian metals are crippling local suppliers.
Australia is just killing our aluminum market, and the President Trump says, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're going back to where we were, golden age of steel and aluminum.
Now, the 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports into the US begin on the 12th of March, and only Donald Trump can rescind that order, giving the Prime Minister a hard deadline to secure an exemption and prove his mettle on the world stage ahead of the federal election. We've also got a message this morning, Jane, from the White House detailing other issues discussed between the two leaders on that 40-minute call that happened first thing yesterday morning. Among them, you can see critical minerals were discussed, along with concerns about, quote, China's aggressiveness. But this morning, Jane, all eyes on what comes next from President Trump and his trade tariffs.
OK, Liz, thank you. A convicted terrorist who planned to blow up the Melbourne Cricket Ground and Crown Casino will not be put back under stricter supervision, despite meeting with a man who was jailed over a standoff with counter-terrorism officers. Abdul Nasser Benbrika was caught talking about police monitoring, infidels, blasphemy and bullets at a cafe with Joshua Clavel in November. His stricter orders, including a curfew, were lifted last year. He spent 18 years in jail for the plot. As prospects of a minority government loom for Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister has hosted dinner and drinks for independent MPs. The event marking what could be their second last night in Canberra if Albanese calls a pre-May election. It is the first time that some of those independents had been invited to the lodge. A parliamentary inquiry has laid bare the signs Ambulance Victoria is at breaking point, revealing lives have been lost as they again fail to meet key timing benchmarks. New data released shows 1 in 3 ambulances are failing to get to Code 1 emergencies within 15 minutes. It comes as new rules must see hospitals offload 90% of ambulance patients within 40 minutes to get them back on the road. 75 tonnes of illegal cigarettes that were suspected to be bound for Australia have been seized. It's believed the ship carrying the product had speedboats that were going to be used to make an illegal landing in Australia. Planned industrial action that would have slowed down Sydney train services today has now been postponed. The plan was to run trains 23 kilometres under the speed limit in 80 kilometre zones. However, it's now been put on hold as further discussions get underway. The Prime Minister has announced plans to buy collapsed Rex Airlines if the company fails to sell. Running on fumes, it received an $80 million lifeline late last year to keep operating regional flights until July. The new $500 million transaction would make it the first airline to be government-owned since Qantas. Adelaide could break heat records today as the city braces for what could be its hottest February day in more than 10 years. It is expected to reach 43 degrees in the city and nudge 50 degrees in the far north, raising concerns for the town of Wilmington, where fires have been burning for a week. Authorities are urging residents to be prepared and have a fire safety plan in place.